Weddings are a significant indicator of Indian culture. Though centered around the bride and groom, this special event tacitly focuses on sustaining and strengthening the community, Jat Biradari, as it is popularly termed in India. And that's how it has been for centuries. Add to it the pomp and glamour of Mehendi, Haldi, Sangeet, Baarat, exquisite outfits and jewelry, exotic destinations, DJs, after parties, live streaming and Instagram reels, and you get a modern day Indian wedding where commerce and entertainment take the center stage, where capturing the moment digitally becomes more important than living the moment. To explore this subject and more, here is a conversation with Ritika Bhagali, an architect by qualification, wedding planner by profession, teacher by passion, and a mother of a two legged and a four legged one. This conversation explores today's Indian weddings through the lens of design, relationships, economics, values, and ethics. Welcome, Ritika, to this conversation.
Thank you, Milind. I'm so happy to be here.
I am equally happy and delighted because finally we are able to do this.
I know.
It's been a while that you and I have been planning to have this recording done, and I remember I think it was little over 2 months back when we had our first chat, and we actually fixed up a date. Sadly there was a personal emergency at your end because of which we had to call off our recording date. But later on, you got busy into your busiest season of the year, which of course we'll talk in a moment. And now that the season is over, you have all the time to kind of sit back, relax. I'm happy we are doing this when you are kind of, getting back into your groove.
Likewise, I think that my state of mind post my wedding season, it's a much better time for me to do this recording. I think before the season, if we would have recorded, I would have been like a bag of anxiety and nerves because there was just so much happening. And now I kind of have a little bit of time, and I'm like, I can actually have a conversation, like, I'm fully here. And I'm so delighted that you waited and gave me a chance to come back and have this conversation. So thank you for your patience.
No, I mean, pleasure and joy is equally ours. And, Ritika, we have done, as you know, a little over 100 episodes by now. And January of 2022 is when we started the Wings podcast.
Wow.
And to be very precise, exactly 3 years back. And it's been a fun ride and many learnings that one has got. But one learning, especially, I don't think one can find that in any textbook. And the learning I have personally got is conversations happen. You can't make them happen. And what is meant to get recorded will get recorded. And if it is meant to get recorded at a certain point in time, it will only get recorded at that point in time. So probably today is the time for you and me to have this chat.
Cheers to that. Like, that is a wonderful way to look at it. Yeah, and I'm really happy to be here. And, from the very moment I've entered your studio and your home, like, there's this very calming, soothing energy about this place, about you. And I hope that that's going to transfer and take over into our little conversation that we're about to have, because I'm not a calming energy by any stretch of imagination, so I could use a little bit of that.
Ritika, where are you today and where are you now?
So today, that's actually an excellent question, and I wish I had a little more time to think about it. But I think today I am in a really happy, comfortable and peaceful place in my personal and professional life. So I have a wonderful little family of with my husband and my little 3-year-old and my dog, and I feel professionally very fulfilled with the different hats that I'm donning. So I'm an architect. I have an interior design practice. I teach students on weekends. I help them prepare for their design entrance exams. More than that, it's just like their first step into, like I'm hand holding them into their first step to understand what design is. And I'm also a wedding planner, and everything, all of the various things that I'm doing, like I'm more fulfilled now than I would have imagined, say, 8 years ago was possible for me to be. So I think today I'm in just a really peaceful and happy place in all spheres of my life. And if you ask me where I am right now, uh, right now I am really excited. I, I'm here fully present in this moment, and I feel like that's taken a lot of practice to be able to be fully present in a place. And I'm very excited about and very optimistic about my future and tomorrow, and I'm prepared to do what it takes to make sure that it's everything I want it to be.
Let me reciprocate to your sharing of where you are right now, let's say in your life space or mind space right now, by sharing with you where I am right now,
Okay.
because I think I owe it to you, is I am at a place where people in Goa call it sushegat,
Yeah.
which is chilling out.
Correct.
I just had my 60th, and life has been good, and it's been a roller coaster ride, a fun ride, but I'm at a space where I'm happy just to wake up, go through the day, and go to sleep in the night at 10, half past 10. That's where I am, in my life. But as such, where I am in my mental space right now when I'm sharing this little studio with you is I'm super anxious and a little worried. I'll tell you why. Because the little I know of you, the image that I hold in my mind about you is of a dammed water.
Okay.
Yeah, a huge reservoir of water which is held back by a huge dam. And the dam, not only, when the dam is holding back the water, it's calm and quiet. But actually, moment the gates open, the water just gushes out, and the place where it lands has to then worry, how can I receive this much of energy? This is where I am right now, Ritika.
I apologize because that is a very accurate description of what my energy is capable of being. And I'm sorry that I'm causing you anxiety, but I'm really excited to see where our conversation leads. And yeah, I mean, what you mentioned about Susegard, like where you are in life, that's where I hope to be by the time I hit 60. So, congratulations on embodying like someone in their 30s, what their dream is to be in your place by the time that they're 60. So, kudos on that, and a belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you, Ritika. But 60 for you is 30 years away, so there's hajar time there. But let's come back to the busy marriage season that you as a wedding planner is really coming out of. Just quickly, what are the big highlights of the current season that you have just come out of?
So actually this year, like 2024, the wedding season was about 3 times as massive as I had anticipated. And I also know that that has been the experience of a lot of my peers in the industry. So it seems like the wedding market is literally, and I mean, Indian weddings are known to be crazy worldwide, but it's gone to another level of um, like weddings are they're so ingrained in our culture, and because of you add this layer of social media and Instagram and this image that needs to be projected about where you are in life, who you are in life, people use their weddings as a platform to showcase a lot of, like, it's very layered, like weddings are not only about two people celebrating their love and commitment and a promise to build a future together. It is also a lot of family aspirations, a lot of personal aspirations, and I'm using the word aspirations very categorically because a lot of times, like, weddings are more aspirational than um, practical. And as a business and as an economy, that is wonderful, but at the same time it's a little bit crazy in, like, if I were to do my wedding all over again, um like, I would really evaluate uh what the meaning behind, like, every function or any investment that you make into a wedding. I would really evaluate what is important to me and my partner, and only really do those things. Like, but this wedding season was insane, professionally super successful, but it really does push me to introspect, what this means as, like, a society where we are spending crazy amount of money, time, energy. Like, we are planning weddings a year in advance. Like, everyone wants to do something that has never been done before, and that really doesn't, like, exist. Like,
I and Asha and I, for us, 2024, the whole of 2024, from Jan to December, has been a year of attending weddings after weddings of nieces, nephews, sons and daughters of friends, of our age. Obviously because they are at a marriage age, and I think all of them have, come to that age altogether. So countless, I think, weddings we have attended. Probably more wedding in 1 year than the 10 years prior to that. Now, what was common in most, not all, but most, I don't want to generalize, but is about the pomp and glory and the larger than life celebration, which of course we enjoyed a lot. Many of them were destination weddings, so we were very happy to fly into those exotic places, exotic resorts where room was booked for us, and 3 days and 3 nights we had some great time, including elephant rides, etc., etc. There was even a wedding with one of our friends' daughters, where it was very proudly shared that some of the dresses that the bride was wearing were bought at an auction, and those were wedding dresses that Alia Bhatt and Shraddha Kapoor wore in some of the films that they were brides.
wow.
So, from the days of Hum Aapke Hai Kaun, the Madhuri Dixit,
Yeah.
Salman Khan film, where the whole film is about the bride's people go to the groom's people, and the groom's people come to the bride's people, and song and dance and music, and that's about it. Simple and nice. Cut to today, there are these wedding songs
Correct.
which are mandatory in every film, like Dilli Wali Girlfriend, Chod Chhad Ke. Yeah, and this amazing other film, fun, through all the, makes no sense, but then this Tu Jhuti Mein Makkar, That just
Yeah.
Ranbir Kapoor and Shraddha Kapoor film. Visually, it was fun. Again, a beautiful wedding song there. So I wonder how much of films, especially Bollywood, and I would say take it to Tollywood or people, movies in South or wherever, marriages, the way they are being projected and depicted in films, how much of that is having impact on marriages that are happening in normal families?
So I would say Bollywood plays a very big role, has traditionally played a very big role, right from, like you said, Hum Aapke Hai Kaun? Like Joota Chupai. That was not a custom in any Maharashtrian wedding. But now, like just because of Joote Do Paise Do, like we don't even know that that's not customary now for today's generation. That is tradition because they have never been to a wedding where that was not happening. Like this mehendi rasam, haldi rasam, like different cultures had the
Sangeet.
sangeets. Exactly, like earlier, like every culture had their own specific religious and traditional um, like ceremonies and things associated with a wedding. But today it's kind of homogenized across India because of Bollywood. And today's day, more than Bollywood, I would say social media. Like like I earlier mentioned about how much money people are spending on weddings. I mean, as a wedding planner, I'm really happy. Please keep spending money because I mean, that is how we make a living. But, like when we see like the Ambani wedding, like probably the biggest wedding of ever,
Yeah,
right?
I think 1 billion Indian watched it as reels.
Ex-
Be it the watchman in any housing society or maybe the CEOs of the company.
or if you checked like social media, since they had so many foreign guests like
Yes.
the Kardashians and I don't know, Rihanna's and Justin Bieber's coming in, it was a global phenomenon.
Yes.
And people were like, hey, is this what Indian weddings are like? And suddenly, like a Ritika sitting in her house somewhere in, say, Nashik, is now looking at these reels and thinking, oh, I want this decor. Oh, I want to wear a dress like that. And then she works hard for 2 years, saves her salary, and buys a Sabyasachi lehenga. Now, for Ambani's, like it's not even it's not even the amount that they may have spent, which is billions of rupees, is not even a dent in their entire net worth, right? Like they can genuinely afford this wedding. But like a girl in Nashik who's looking at these reels and aspiring for a lehenga that looks like this is literally putting 2 years of her salary in buying a lehenga that she is never going to wear again. Right? So that is where I feel like as an industry and as a culture we really need to reevaluate where like how I mean you go into like your wedding is the first day of your marriage and that we should be discussing more about how you want the marriage to be than how you want the wedding to be. Like like for a year couples are brainstorming, creating Pinterest boards, and organizing funds, fighting with respective families. मुझे ये चाहिए, मुझे वो चाहिए, नहीं मुझे ऐसी शादी करनी है, ऐसी एंट्री करनी है, ऐसे संगीत नहीं, तुम्हारी साइड के 10 संगीत, हमारे साइड के 10 संगीत नहीं, इतने नहीं हो सकते, नहीं मुझे तो ड्राई आइस की एंट्री चाहिए. These are the conversations that are literally going on for a year before the wedding actually takes place. Instead, I feel like couples should be discussing, hey, do you want children? How do you want to raise the children? What are your views on religion? Like, how do you practice religion in your daily life? What about finances? Are we going to have joint accounts or separate accounts? Who will pay for what? But these are not conversations that couples are having at all. Like they are instead obsessing over Pinterest boards and wedding entries, and the that gets over on the day the wedding is done.
There was this resort wedding. Sorry, I'm interrupting you here, Ritika, but then there was a resort wedding, destination wedding in Ranthambore in Rajasthan that Asha and I were a part of. 3 days, fun time. I mean, everybody was well taken care of, and there was genuine love and warmth that was there everywhere. But every shadi ka ritual was so well designed, practiced, and orchestrated by the wedding planner and her team of, I think, about 5 or 6 people. The wedding team itself was about 5 or 6 people. They had, actually, they had more control on how the wedding goes than the bride and the groom or their respective parents, or even the poor pandit who probably came the last. And throughout the 3 days, what we saw was every single incident or every single event in that marriage was being shot beautifully on probably a very expensive camera by highly professional cameramen. And as if the wedding was happening for the camera to capture the moments only to be lived as a memory when those films are watched,
Correct.
rather than actually experiencing those moments as they are happening.
Correct.
What's your take on this?
That is a very, very valid observation, and it is the state of matters. Like, I had the wonderful opportunity to do a wedding for a really mindful family in the first 4 days of January, and they're blessed with resources. They're extremely wealthy, if I were to discuss that aspect of it. But they were like, like the bride, she's traditional. The groom's family, they were so simple. They were from Hyderabad. The bride's family was from Pune. The couple themselves live in the US. And they were like, today we have all these SFX, these entries, like, cold pyro shots and smoke and
drones all over the place.
Drones. And they were just like, we want none of that.
Okay.
They were like, we don't want any color blast. Like, we actually want the wedding to be a wedding. And we want all of our close people on the stage, all of their close people on the stage. And they had hired a photography team, and the photography team, they were wonderful too, and they were just doing their job. But there was a team of like 9 or 10 people. And the bride's grandmother was furious, and she was like, like, all the angles from where the audience can see what is going on stage, there are photographers covering the entire stage. Like, why have we called 800 people here? Like, they need to be able to see this and witness this. And she was like, I don't care. Like, half of these photographers need to move out from the stage. I don't care what contracts have been negotiated. Like, this wedding is for the wedding that's happening right now. And we have to respect that we have invited all these people to be a part of it. And they are important, and they need to get to see what is going on. Like, I don't want every inch of the stage covered by photographers. And there are very few people today who think that way. And that is like, there's nothing that we can really do about it, because it's just an examination of culturally where we're at. So, like, weddings today are, as a job, like, that's what we're doing. We're curating experiences. And what that takes away is the actual real lived experience of it a little bit.
I'm actually connecting back to the moment when I got married. This was obviously way back. Now that I'm 60, I got married when I was 26. So it sounds as if it was, so many years back. But though it was so many years back, I think To be very precise, 34 years to the date, almost. I distinctly remember the moment when I was putting Mangal Sutra. In that moment, something happened to me. I zoned out. It's like when you wear those AirPods, which has noise cancellation,
The
and
sound drowns.
sound drowns out,
Yeah.
and you are in that silent zone. For me, in that moment when I put Mangal Sutra on Asha, 1990 December, there was no air of AirPods then, but I had zoned out. I couldn't hear anybody's voice. We had about 200 plus people that time around me. I couldn't see any people. And I was in a moment where something happened to me, where I saw something is changing within me. Now I'm saying all this in hindsight.
Correct.
It took me years of contemplation to try and understand that moment. I don't mind saying this on this podcast, but what happened to me in that moment, glimpses of clarity happened more than a decade later. When I read a term called liminality, and in some context, as I was reading a book, and this term appeared called liminality, and I have a Merriam-Webster app on my phone, so every time I see a new word, obviously you look up,
Correct.
and then I found the meaning of the word liminality as I was reading the book, and I want to read out that definition of this word,
Please.
which helped me, kind of the pin dropped for me. And the definition goes of the word liminality is, it says, in anthropology, liminality is the quality of ambiguity or disorientation that occurs in the middle stage of a rite of passage, when participants no longer hold their pre-ritual status, but have not yet begun the transition to the status they will hold when the rite is complete.
That's beautiful.
So I think that's what happened to me, that as I was putting Mangal Sutra on Asha, probably a realization, which of course dawned a decade later thanks to this definition that I came across, was I was changing as a person. From a young bachelor of 26, I was becoming a man unto myself, a husband to the woman I'm going to get married, whom I will call wife. And I am no longer one, but I'll be probably two as one.
Yeah.
And I think every faith, every mythology talks about this ritual of marriage. Up until now it is all man and woman, but in today's times, same-sex marriage, and I'm a huge supporter of that.
Absolutely.
Whether it is gay marriages, etc. It's good as long as they find comfort and love and sharing with each other. God bless them.
Absolutely.
But then there is this little phase that happens when marriage happens, when you aren't the person you were just before the moment, and you have not yet become the person on the other side of the rite of passage.
Yeah.
How do you see this?
That's a very, I think I'll take some time to review my own experience of this. But this is my so I became a wedding planner through planning my husband and my wedding. That was the first wedding that I planned. And, at the time I was 28, and I also really cared about how my wedding would represent me, and my husband is a wedding DJ, so he was already in this industry. I'm a designer, so we really cared about how our wedding would represent us rightly. And I remember fussing over details like right up to literally walking into my wedding mandap. Like we were super punctual. We were the first people at every event of ours. My husband and I, like my husband is still sour about it. He was like,
Unlike today, when
people
500 guests are waiting for the bride and the groom to appear.
correct. Like we were the first people present at every event of ours. My husband is still sour about it. He's like, I want an entry. I want to renew my vows just to have like celebrated entrances into each ceremony. But I reached my wedding and they were sweeping the place and they were still removing the plastic off of some chairs, and I was fully done. I had reached there for photographs and I started crying. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, people are starting to come and they're still not set up. This is ridiculous. This is not how I had planned for this. How could they do this? And my husband was just like distracting me, and he was like, it doesn't matter, like, let's go get our photographs. And we went, and I mean, the day went on. And throughout the wedding, like, I was still in this planner mode. And then I was so tired at the end of the night. And we went to the hotel, and I didn't even get out of my clothes. I was wearing those heavily beaded blouses, and I just slept like that because I was so exhausted. And I slept for 12 hours straight. And next afternoon, my husband woke me up and he was like, hey, we have to say bye to a few guests. Wake up. And I got up and I was like, we are married. And like, why did I care about the plastic on the chairs? Like, how does this matter? Like, this doesn't matter. Like, we are staying together now. Like, that is what matters. Like, I had this out of body experience of where I was like, why was I fixated on these nitty gritties that literally don't mean a thing?
Absolutely.
And what matters is I have woken up next to the man that I love, and I am going to spend my life with him. And this is like the peak of happiness that I could imagine and perceive. And why was I fixating? Like, I cried on my wedding day about plastic on the chairs. Like, it is so unimportant.
It's not just plastic on the chairs, Ritika. I mean, I have seen young boys and girls fuming and fretting if the Baarat ka ghoda, which is supposed to bring the groom, doesn't have the right
Cloth,
cloth to sit on, or the music is too loud. I mean, hell with it. What is it all about? But I think what you say over here is something extremely important over here. Is what I like about the current times, especially, is about at least much of the choices and the decisions are being made by the boy and the girl, the bride and the groom. Unlike probably a generation earlier, when they were probably meek spectators to everything that the parents would do.
Correct.
I'm talking about the Indian context.
Correct.
I'm not trying to judge what is right or wrong. It is what it is. It was right then. What is happening right is now. But then, especially these interfaith, intercaste, interreligion marriages that are happening, and I'm so happy about it.
Absolutely.
At least there will be a good understanding of people from two cultures, of trying to respect and appreciate each other. But again, let's kind of go back to.
I want to just make a small point here.
Tell me.
That, as a wedding planner, like a big part of my job, so through my own wedding, I realized that there is a need for wedding planners so that brides and grooms, like, I realized my realizations only through my lived experience. So I was like, I wish that I was not arriving and seeing plastic on the chairs. There is definitely a space for planners to make sure that this experience is, like, fun for the couple involved. So, a big part of my job as a wedding planner is being a counselor to the couple and kind of trying to keep bringing their focus back on the marriage aspect and letting go of a few things that we as wedding planners, we try to plan everything to the T. like you said, like we are in control of, oh, at what time does who goes for a pee break, and what time does who walk in, who are the four men who are going to hold the fulo ki chaddar, what song will play when the bride enters, and when she reaches what point does flower blast go. Like we have literally every minute to minute planned of the wedding, but I constantly bring the couple back to the focus that hey, we've planned all this, but very often things don't go as per plan, just like life, right? Like you've planned for everything, and then, like, life takes over. Similarly, on your wedding day, there'll be,
The horse just goes wild.
yeah, you can, and you just enjoy it. Like you enjoy the fact that hey, this is something we laugh about, and carry on to getting married to the person that you are choosing to spend the rest of your life with. Like I have brides who are literally in makeup asking me to text them photos ki bahar, show me the centerpiece ka photo. Bride is crying in makeup, oh, this is not the color of the flower that I had selected. And I'm like, hey, it doesn't matter. Like you are the bride, you, people are looking at you, no one knows what color flower you had chosen. Like sometimes you've planned to do red roses, and that morning the flower market doesn't have red
It's
roses.
only yellow.
Yeah, and then you make it work.
Yeah.
Just like marriage, right? Like you had planned that you are going to earn this much salary, save this much money, and then you lose your job. And then you like you pivot, and you do, like you make it work.
You know, this make it work, actually this could be an entire podcast conversation with you, Ritika, where, from the rosy romantic ideas of getting married, where, it's all about fantasy. Marriage as it is held in the mind, influenced by probably external forces like films or whatever, to actually then living through it when it's just the two of you. The 800 guests have gone, the parents have gone, and then you are going to be together, probably, arguing, which toothpaste I use and which toothpaste you use and which side of the bed I get up from, and so on and so forth, those little things. But then marriage is a rite of passage, which leads to a very important rite of passage that follows for many,
Mm-hmm.
is to have a child,
Yeah,
to become parents.
yeah,
Biologically, of course, but otherwise in today's times also.
Yeah.
Adoption, surrogacy, there are a whole lot of options. But then from just the two of us, there is a third person entering in the family,
hmm.
especially for women.
Hmm.
And you've been through that.
Yes.
How has been motherhood for you?
An absolute privilege. Let me just say that. It's been, I feel emotional just thinking about how wonderful, chaotic, difficult, joyful, and absolutely transformative the experience has been. So I actually, like, I struggled to conceive, and I had a really tough pregnancy as well. And I am not a person of faith at all. Like, um, but somewhere, like, I knew that this is my baby. Like this baby that I'm carrying is my baby. And there were no guarantees right up to the end of my pregnancy if we will make it. And then comes this little boy who, I mean, like, in his little span of 3.5 years, has changed. Like, liminality, I would talk more in the aspect of motherhood than even marriage, because, uh, you know, like, marriage is still like a choice. At least for me, it was very much like an active choice that I was making in terms of who I marry, how everything goes, where we stay, how things go. Like, we had control of all the decisions that we were making. But motherhood is just not like that, right? Like, this little baby arrives and you learn and you adapt to understand how to, like, build your life and that baby's life together in harmony, such that you both are healthy and happy and flourishing. So for me, like, I think of motherhood as, probably, like I said, that I'm donning so various hats, and I really enjoy um, all the different aspects of my career. But really, the most important job that I have is raising my child, because I mean, the responsibility of um, to, like, my son is like one individual and a drop in the ocean of the future of, say, I would think of our country and the world, just a drop in the ocean. But I feel like for all parents, like, if I mean, the responsibility of raising a good man and instilling um, the right foundation and values. Um, and this is not something that you do actively, right? You're not thinking every day, oh, what values will I teach my child? But it's more of living a life that your child witnesses and imitates, or,
Yeah, as they say, you can't teach,
yeah.
but everybody learns.
Yeah. So, like, embodying a life that, that you are proud of, that you would be proud for your child to witness and learn from, and tomorrow be his own person, is like the biggest responsibility. So I feel like, we talk about, like, mothers having careers. I feel like I have never been more passionate about working till I had a child. Like, till then, like, yeah, like, I was always working, and, like, I was raised by a working mother, and my mother is a very practical, very strong woman. Like, literally everything I am is because of how my mother is. It's not like she did something to raise me a certain way. She is who she is, and I learned from being her daughter. And after I had my child, I started working in 2 weeks after having my child. And, like, the energy and the passion I feel for, like, my work, and for having an identity of a working woman, of having financial independence, of having agency, is it's never been as important to me as it is now that I'm a mother of a son. I don't know how different it would have been if I had a daughter. I think, like, the responsibility of raising a good son is bigger to me. I feel like daughters, they're good anyway.
Look at that.
They're wonderful anyway.
Madam, as a man, let me take an objection to this, because I know your husband reasonably well. He came on our podcast.
Yes.
A wonderful conversation for all the listeners of this podcast. If you are interested, you can listen into this episode titled "Being Reggae." Yashodhan Reggae, Ritika's husband, unbelievable DJ, but an unbelievable human being. I mean,
Yes.
at least in today's time, you have men like him who are equally carrying the fatherhood in them, just as the mothers are carrying the motherhood in them. I mean, I'm seeing the sensitiveness, the compassion of even fathers today in terms of raising child. But let me also ask you then, you are professionally an architect.
Yes.
And Asha, my wife, who's also co-producer of this podcast, is also a practicing architect for more than
Yes.
35 years. one phrase I keep hearing from her as an architect is the concept of design, order, and systems. And you are an architect, and you are a passionate architect and interior designer too. In addition to running a wedding planning business, you also do an interior design business.
Yes.
Now, how does this concept, in very brief, of design, order, and systems, influence the various roles that you play, whether you are a wedding planner or whether you are an interior designer or the educationist that you are in, I'll come back to that in a moment, or the motherhood role.
Correct. I'm just going to, before I answer this question, I'm going to talk about my husband. That you said that he is like, out of all the men in the world, I chose him to be my partner in crime, rhyme, parenthood, because of who he is, and like I'm on the path that I am only because like my path collided with his, and everything from that's the biggest decision that you ever make, is who you choose to do life with. And your life, I mean, that is the pivotal decision, and everything that is happening now is because of that one decision that I made. So my responsibility to my son, like even beyond, like, the expectations of fathers today, like you said, that they are carrying sensitivity and but I'll tell you this very honestly, like the roles of like a mother and a father in society are just nowhere comparable.
Of course.
Even now, but maybe in the next generation,
Sure.
there'll be even more equalization, and that is where I'm coming from.
Where instead of a maternity leave of 6 months at work, you will have paternity leave where the fathers are given 6 months break. I mean, especially Nordic countries, they have a 2-year break for fathers.
Correct.
Fully paid by the government. But let's come back to this theme of design, order, and systems.
So I feel like, especially since I'm doing so many roles, like I'm juggling these multiple facets of life, and it's all chaotic, okay? Like, but there is an order in the chaos also. So when you talk about design, order, and systems, like in every, like in the smallest to the biggest way, especially in wedding planning, like my season for weddings and my children going for their exams, like overlap. It's all in December and Jan. Like my students go for their exams and my weddings all happen around the same time. So for me to do justice to all these roles, like if there was no order to the chaos, then I would not, like I began this podcast by saying I feel fulfilled in all the roles that I am currently taking on. And I feel like I've worked out, like the one thing I struggled with for a long time in my professional and in my personal life was delegating, like letting go of control.
Yeah.
Where, like, I'm the nucleus, like the design of everything is in my head, and I kept keeping the execution also all in my hands. And that you can't grow if you insist on believing that only you can do everything the best. And if it might even be true in certain ways, and you have to believe that you surround yourself with trustworthy people
who care about you,
who care about their job. Correct. Who have the same value system as you, who look at work, who look at education, who look at, like, who have a shared work ethic. Even like at home with my son, like I'm working, I have a support system with my mother-in-law, with my nanny, without whom like nothing is possible. Like the school that I choose for my son, like all of these are building blocks into making an ecosystem which is supporting your vision, and these are the systems that we have in place. Like, I have designed my life, and like, I have these goals for each of the spheres in my life, and I'm building ecosystems to support that vision. Like, right from like, my more than my mother, I depend on my mother-in-law, who also, like, she comes in every time that I have, like, my husband is traveling, or I have a wedding and I'm going to be at a setup overnight. She comes, she stays, she looks after my son. Like, my house is her house. Like, my relationship with my mother-in-law is so strong, like, completely, uh, like, not the, sas bahu relationship that is portrayed in this negative light. Like, she's my biggest support system,
Wonderful.
and without that,
But I guess this is also a conscious step of investing in those relationships as well.
absolutely, and
I mean,
that
that's
is the design.
That is the
That
design.
is the design.
So I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you talked of the word chaos and you talked of the word order as if they are either or. But I think the life that we live today, and life that has always been like this, it's not that today things are different than 25 years back or the generation before. Life has been chaotic, life has been orderly, and there is this interesting phrase that is also coming up of accepting life as a chaotic reality,
Yeah.
and say that to be able to live that chaotic life, what kind of ecosystem of people, relationship, various stakeholders in my life that I consciously design and build and invest into. I think I'm so happy to hear from somebody like you, who is also taking conscious steps in making and sustaining those connections.
Because, like, I shared with you in my previous conversation with you, that finally, or like, you call it different things, like, oh yeah, wedding planner, teacher, architect, friend, mother, wife, daughter-in-law. At the end of it, like, everything that I'm doing in my life is serving people, and people serving me, not in the traditional sense of service, but like everything that I'm doing is based on my relationships with people. Like, if I said that if I'm doing weddings, I am actually a counselor to the bride and the groom. When I teach my students, like, I'm their guide for 2 years of their life. Like, their parents, like, they share, like, we share a relationship. It is not me teaching them from a book, and they doing homework. Like, it's not a transactional, uh, like, it's not limited to that transaction. Like, we are building connections, and that is what I value above all else, and that is how I have built my life, my career. Everything is a web of my connections with people that I have built over, like, my lifetime of 36 years, and that is what I value above all else. Today I'm a wedding planner, tomorrow I might be something completely different. The base of that would also still be my ability to connect with people.
And keep making those connections.
Yes, and preserving the ones that I've already made,
And
like,
letting go of those which
don't
somehow
serve you. Yeah.
are unproductive.
Yeah.
On this note, let's do a small exercise if you're up for it.
Absolutely, tell me.
Let's write a letter to Ritika.
Okay.
I want you to write a letter to Ritika and just say what are the opening lines and what are the closing lines of the letter.
For the Ritika of the present, future.
Now, Ritika of the now. So, Ritika writing a letter to Ritika of the today.
Okay.
What will be the opening 2 or 3 lines and what will be the closing 2 or 3 lines?
My dear Ritika, I am so proud of how far you've come and for keeping at it. That would be what I would say to open. And to close, I would say that, you know, keep clarity of your why. Why do you do what you do? Like, always in the chaos, like, keep coming back to the why of what you're doing, and you'll find the grit to keep going.
So beautiful, so beautiful. What a wonderful note to end this conversation. And I hate to say these words every time I end a conversation on this podcast, but then we have a time limit. Uh, Ritika has been such a wonderful, wonderful 1 hour with you. You've left a lot of energy with me. I don't know whether I can hold it, how much I can keep it with me, but then where has this conversation left you?
I think that we have touched. I am going to be thinking about all the things that we have spoken about for the next few days, because we really captured so much. In it doesn't feel like it's been just an hour. So thank you for holding space for me to chatter away. Like I said, I always nurture the connections that I make, and I'm so glad that I was able to make this one with you. So thank you, and I will always be in touch.
Enjoy the person that you are, Ritika. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time today, my dear listeners. This is your host, Milind Agnihotri, signing off. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe. This podcast is for general information purposes only and should not be considered as a piece of any professional advice. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of its guest. Creators of this podcast expressly disclaim any and all liability or responsibility for any direct or indirect, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of this podcast. For feedback and suggestions, please write to wingsindia75 at gmail.com. Thank you.